My name is Nai Barghouti. I was born in Jerusalem and raised in Palestine. I moved to the Netherlands in 2016 because I wanted to study music and specifically jazz. So I studied at the Conservatory of Amsterdam, in Amsterdam. And I basically studied jazz there and then decided to do a master's there and loved it too much, so decided to stay afterwards and explore life here as well, between here and Palestine. I was very lucky to have a family that is really interested in music a lot. So we grew up listening to all kinds of different music, from classical music to jazz to Arabic music, of course, specifically Arabic music. We always had disagreements on what to listen to in the car, but we always agreed on Fairuz, who's the legendary, Arabic singer from Lebanon. So she was basically a singer that really inspired me, along with Kulthum, Egyptian legend, singer, late singer. So we listened to all kinds of music, and Arabic music became such an integral part of my musical identity and of what I'd like to do in my life. So for me, it's been a journey of looking for my own sound in music and to try to find out what it is that I want to do with music. I have so many interests in different genres of music. I play the flute, I studied classical Western music, I also studied jazz, and of course my roots are in Arabic music. So it's always been and still is a journey for me to find out where exactly my voice comes with all of this. I'm writing a lot of music lately that kind of mixes between those different passions, if I may call them, to find my own voice in what I'd like to bring to Arabic music, a modern sound to Arabic music, while keeping the essence which lies in the traditional and classical traditions of Arabic music. Being Palestinian always, I don't want to say forces you, but in a way it does. You have a responsibility to carry that name with you, to explain what it means to you and to people around you. For me, it was the reason why I started music in the first place. Being a Palestinian, living under occupation, and being exposed to tragedies just like every other Palestinian in Palestine. It made me want to express myself in a way as a child, as a 7-year-old, in a way that I couldn't find in words. And that's when I started studying music, and I started writing music as well. So for me, being Palestinian and having that identity with me, it's one of the most important parts about my music. I played with the Palestine Youth Orchestra multiple times, first as a flute player, and then in the last few years I sang with them as a soloist, and it was a very beautiful experience because we could play a lot of different music, from the Western classical repertoire to the Arabic repertoire, and also expose that music in Europe, which always has its own, beautiful and interesting sides. I won the Concertgebouw Young Talent Award in 2020, and to me it was a dream come true, because I always say this, but when I arrived in Amsterdam, one of the first things I saw was the Concertgebouw building from outside, and I always thought, wow, I want to go watch a concert there. And I never realized that I would be on that stage one day and to perform multiple times my own music with my band. And then when I found out the news about the Concertgebouw Award, that made me extremely happy and honored and also very proud, because it's a very prestigious award, and it means a lot to me, coming from a venue of such importance as the Concertgebouw.
Yeah, we are actually neighbors. We lived in the same neighborhood. But then we knew each other from the same music school that we went to, the Edward Said National Conservatory in Ramallah. Then we collaborated in many different projects throughout our studies in the conservatory. Then we started doing our own projects with Nai and their beautiful music. Then when I moved here, this continued to happen.
So we actually never wrote music together in the same, like for the same song or piece, but it normally worked. For example, Khalil wrote a beautiful melody that we really like to play in the band. We have a band of 5 people, including me. So we basically took that melody and then found out how we can arrange it for this particular band. So we developed the melodies together with improvisations and with different elements that we'd like to bring and that each member of the band also brings in. And the same goes for my melodies when I write them, and I mostly write instrumental melodies actually. And lately I've also started writing music for already existing poems or for poems that are new that someone would send me and I can find some kind of inspiration from and write melodies for.
Well, I think music is so much related to hope and love, but I would also personally like to add equality and justice to the whole family of these expressions, because that's how I express these terms throughout my music. I think an honest melody can always travel through to people, and they can feel it or understand it, whether it's only melodic, instrumental, or with lyrics. For example, the piece that I wrote it's called A Story About Jerusalem. I wrote it immediately when I arrived in the Netherlands after finishing studying in Jerusalem. And I think, if Nay agrees, everyone feels the story that I'm trying to tell throughout the melody.
It has a lot of nostalgia,
Yeah.
you know, when you hear it, you really think about Jerusalem and
Yeah.
walking through the old city and the streets. These 2 singers, Kulthum and Fayrouz, have been the most inspiring since I was a child. The first thing I ever listened to was Kulthum, and I was absolutely in love, and still is in love with her voice, with everything that she brings to the music, the kind of control and the power, and it just has so much more than just her being a singer. There's so much more to that, and how she leads the band, and how she's very spontaneous, which I really love. The song is something, but then in the middle of the concert she wants to improvise, or she wants to repeat a passage 15 times because she can really do it differently each time. And for me, like, that genius way of dealing with music was extremely inspiring and very important as well to get to know the essence of Arabic music and the state we call tarab in Arabic, which means basically music ecstasy. You know, when you hear the music, Arabic music, especially from Egypt, the classical Egyptian music, and you're listening to that kind of spontaneity happening with extreme emotion, and it makes people go crazy almost, and you hear it in the recordings. So that thing for me is crucial. It was a crucial step to get into Arabic music. And then when I got a little bit older, I started appreciating more Fayrouz, because before I was so much into the Egyptian music school that I didn't really have enough, I would say, concentration on Fayrouz. And then when I grew a little bit older and my taste in music also changed, in a way I discovered Fayrouz. I discovered, like, wow, there's this miracle happening as well, and that I can actually, you try to sing it, you think, oh, it's easy, and then you try to sing it, and then it's absolutely impossible. You cannot sing it. And it took me years to be able to actually sing a song for Fayrouz that doesn't sound terrible. And that's basically the essence of Fayrouz.
Yeah.
It's the range, and it's also the way she sings. I mean, in Arabic we call it as-sahl al-mumtani', which means complex simplicity. And that's really, like, maybe the best way to describe Fayrouz, that it really sounds simple. It sounds very poetic and melodic, and really, like, you don't hear a lot of craziness and like you do with Kulthum, but then you try to do it and you discover that there's so many secrets inside these notes that you cannot do.
Yeah. Specifically those two, they did a really an amazing job. And I have to say also the whole team of Fayrouz and the team that worked with Kulthum, from composers and lyricists also in Lebanon with Fayrouz. They covered an crazy big spectrum of possibilities and topics that you can, me as individually, I can relate to almost any song. Even I have memories that are in the words of some songs, which always fascinates me. So she sang for kites that kids play with, and for Jerusalem. So it's amazing.
A whole spectrum.
The whole spectrum is
of different meanings.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing my parents tell me is that when I was a baby, I would be crying a lot, and then they would put Kulthum on, and I would be like, okay, life is good now. And I don't know if that's, I cannot remember that obviously, but you know, maybe as, you know, when I started having memories that I can still remember, I don't know, maybe just I remember taking the longest showers because Kulthum's songs are like 20, 30, 40, sometimes 1 hour recordings, and I wanted to listen to the whole recording and not interrupt it. You know, I remember that a lot because my parents used to go crazy because water in Palestine is limited due to occupation and you cannot take long showers. So that would be an early memory.
I think for me it was the first time that I ever experienced headphones. I listened to Fayrouz. Yeah.
Wow.
Yes, I just remembered this. It's a nice question. I had to try the headphones with Fayrouz, so there was,
nice.
Yeah.
So these two songs are both kind of iconic in the different genres that they're in. What's so fascinating is that they were written by the same person, but then you hear such diverse styles in them, and the arrangements and the way of playing. You hear with Sakan al-Layl, which is the song for Fayrouz, you hear the introduction, which is so Western, and you hear that kind of, you know, that sound, and then you move on to Inta Umri, which brings you to a whole different
romantic.
Yeah, it's extremely different, and it's amazing that one person wrote that, and it was almost at the same time. I mean, it wasn't like years between them. It was maybe, I don't know, 5 years or something. It wasn't that you know, that much difference in terms of time. So it's amazing how genius Abdul Wahab was, and how many things he introduced to Arabic music that will live with us forever. So it's very important to be performing these songs and to be able to share their stories with people here as well.
I can simply say that I learned a lot from Abdul Wahab in terms of just being brave and introducing new elements of music, even if it's not common in the era you're living in. And sometimes people can still criticize, but people will appreciate it if it's done right. And definitely Abdul Wahab did it right. So yeah, that's what I can say about him.
And Abdul Wahab's nickname actually is basically the musician of all generations.
Yeah.
And that, in a way, kind of summarizes what Abdul Wahab is, because you can listen to him in 2050 and still learn something. That's amazing.
Even for us.
Even for us, yeah.
It's very complex, actually. Yeah, it's very complex, and there is so many layers to the meanings in the words. It can be simple words, but the meaning together is a totally different story than what individual words means.
And I think Khalil Gibran was also like, he had that style.
Yeah.
You know, it's very metaphoric, and you can understand it in different ways in a way.
Yeah.
A love story.
A love story.
To summarize.
Yeah.
I mean, it's, yeah.
We've been trying to
Exactly.
understand.
We
when we reached
about
the ghost part, we never succeeded in connecting but I'm sure there's an explanation, and we would like to...
Your dad's an Arabic teacher, so maybe we should ask him and get the meaning. Yeah. So my experience with performing for different audiences, it's actually very funny, because when I first started performing to a more Western audience, I thought that people hated the concert, because I'm used to people talking all the time and showing you their love by clapping, by saying certain words that we say when we like the music, and they know exactly where to react, where not to react, and it just kind of, you know, works out together in such a natural way that gives such an, you know, adrenaline to the musicians, and then we can do more and more. And when I came here, for example, people have a very different way of appreciating music, and that doesn't mean it's wrong or right, it's just another way. And people can be more quiet here, and they would listen more because they're used to, you know, classical music performances where you're not allowed to clap or react to the music verbally or in a way that makes sounds to people. So you just learn to basically find out about how each audience can experience the music and you know, still enjoy it, but in a very different way.
If the audience in the Kulthum concerts, if the audience wants a section to be repeated, they will keep shouting.
They'll make it happen.
They'll make it happen and make it. They will listen to it again if they like it. And which it's amazing. It doesn't happen these days, unfortunately. I would love to, but to these extremes. But they're still more interactive than the Western. But I personally learned to appreciate and enjoy both equally now.
Yeah. It would be such a big honor for us to be able to celebrate Kulthum's life and her incredible voice, and also this incredible song, which is one of her most famous songs. So to be able to give her that tribute, and to know that some place like the Netherlands and many other countries in the world are till today listening to her voice and performing her voice, I think that's such a big honor. Maybe just one thing about, I think it's such a big risk that is really nice that we're doing, to be able to perform songs that are very different and difficult to an orchestra that has no experience in playing Arabic music. I think it's an amazing experiment, because we get to learn about each other's methods of playing, and we're able to share that kind of, there's fear when we're playing, and I think that fear is really nice actually, because it creates some magic in the music.
Also nice to think of what we do in words, because, for example, today in the rehearsal I was trying to find words to describe a certain way of playing. So it got me thinking, yes, I've never thought about it this way.
You became so poetic.
Yes.
Think of butter, think of water, think of...
Yeah, dipping the score in water. And
yeah, but it makes sense.
It makes sense, yeah.
So this piece is an instrumental piece. It's called Mandira Hijaz. It's from the Ottoman folk music, and it's usually played by instruments. And I like to do this song as an instrument, but using my voice, and using a technique that I'm developing called instrumentation, which was my master's thesis topic. So you'll hear it now with Qanun and the voice. Yes. We'd like to invite the lovely people in the Netherlands to come watch this concert and experience this music with us. We'd love to tell our story and we'd love to see you there.
You can make noise and stand up and just